welcome. It's been a long time since I've done a vlog. Find me on a 48-hour session on Elsons Lake in Northampton. It's a Team Pallatrax social, and there's 8 of us on here. Should have been 10, but a couple pulled out this morning. So there's 8 of us on here. Got a 6.5 acre lake to ourselves now for the next 48 hours. Not fished here before. It's a lovely looking lake, a little bit noisy. I'm sure you can hear the A45 in the background. And the other thing, this video might be a little bit rocky today because I've got to hold the camera myself because I can't get a bank stick into the ground where I am. I may do updates from somewhere else where I can get it in, but yeah, for now we're here. So as I say, 6.5 acres, 8 of us on here. We've got 2 people down on the bank down the bottom there, 5 people on the bank opposite me, and I'm the only person on this bank. I'll spin this around, and basically I've only got 2 rods in this swim. The other one is in the next swim along. If I spin this around, you'll see maybe my barra and cooler bag, cool box, and it's just down there where I'm fishing. And that rod is literally half a rod length out in front of some reeds. I cleared a bit of weed. There wasn't a lot there. Cleared a bit of weed, and I've just dropped a bait in there with a few crossed up Carp Company creamy milk boilies that I like to use. And my 2 rods here, again, I've got the right hand rod is literally 1 rod length out. It's just a solid bottom there. You can see people fished here before, and I'd say that's definitely a feeding spot. That said, the carp are probably used to it by now, so may not get caught off there often. And then my other rod is just, 6 3/4 wraps out, and I spent an hour, it was an hour, with a little lead clearing the spot. 2 types of weed coming in. Never remember what the first one's called, and then after that there was blanket weed underneath it. So 2 types of weed, and after an hour I've cleared a spot where you get a donk as the lead hits the bottom. So I'd like to think fish will investigate that area. I've got a little pink Icelandic red pop up on there, just critically balanced, and it's on a spinner rig, so just sitting off the bottom. And a close in rod is, I think I've got a wafter on there because it's clear. I've got the little, again, Icelandic red wafter on there because that's been doing well for me so far this year. All rods are on a lead core leader with the stones lead and the Pallatrax grips hooks. I mean, it's a barbless hooks only, and I've been using, on lakes where you can only use barbless hooks, I've been using the Pallatrax grips, and again I've done pretty well on there. I think I've only had 1 fish I've lost this year. I've had quite a few fish. I've not bothered doing any vlogs, but I think I'm up 61 carp this year already, so we'll see what happens. It's certainly not an easy lake. The guy who organised it, Tim, he said last year a couple of them caught when they fished on here, but let's turn this back around. We'll see what happens. It's 48 hours, and you've got a chance of, I think there's 10 30s and 2 40s in here. I mean, my English PB is 41.2, so there is a chance of beating that, but there's also a chance of blanking, as with any fishing. But we'll see what happens. I'm very confident on my spots, and I'll stick on them probably for the 2 days. That said, I could move. I may go stalking for a bit. I've got my stalking rod with me. If a lot of fish start showing on the top, I've got some floaters and I'll have a go at that. But aim is to update the vlog, not just with me, see how everybody does. And if someone has a fish, I'll whip around with the camera and update the vlog with their fish. So hopefully speak to you in the next few hours with one of us with a fish on the bank. See you then. Well, good morning, and yeah, welcome back. It's I was going to say it was a quiet night. It wasn't quiet because that A45 doesn't stop having traffic on it, and yeah, for me personally, where I live, you can hear a pin drop at night, so not much sleep. I'm pretty tired, but on the fish front, not a lot's happened. I was getting quite a lot of liners on my close-in rod, the one that's literally 6 foot out, so half a rod length out. But to be honest, I thought it was rats running past because I fish a slack line because it's so close in, and the hanger's hanging down. I just thought it was rats hitting the hanger. Oh, I thought we were going to have a run then, but no. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so I thought it was rats running past, and then about 2 o'clock this morning, had quite a big liner on it. So I sat up and shone the torch down on the hanger, and yeah, it was back in its position, and it wasn't that dark last night, so I turned the torch off but sat up watching the hanger, and yeah, a great big, all the way to the top and all the way down again. So something was close in and feeding, but I crept down to the rods to try and see if I could see any movement down there, and there was a big bow wave out, so definitely a fish was in there feeding at the time. And since then I put the rod back out there this morning initially, and whereas yesterday the coots were diving all day on there and never picked my rod up once, they picked my rod up, or picked my bait up 3 times this morning, so suggesting whatever was in there had cleaned out everything that was on the bottom where I'd been feeding it up all day. So I'm guessing that was an opportunity missed. So I'll just have a slight rethink of how I'm going to fish that spot tonight. Definitely fish were coming in there, but I never got a take, so I'll have a rethink on that one. The left-hand rod, no, nothing happened on the left-hand rod. So and then this morning, probably 40-50 yards out yesterday, coots were diving on a spot out there all day. They were, whatever was out there, they were feeding on it. Then this morning, about 4 o'clock it was, fish were just, well, they was on the surface mostly, but they were out there, and a couple of fish rolled as well. So I have moved both rods out onto that spot now. Nothing's happened. It didn't spook the fish off. It literally 2 casts. So I've just put a pop-up out there. Hopefully there's no donk as the lead's gone down, so it's definitely in weed, but hopefully the pop-ups are sitting above the weed. I moved the bead up on the leaders, so as even though the lead would plummet in theory the rig runs up to the bead, and then the bait slowly sinks and sits on top of the weed. But yeah, nothing's occurred there. And then my rod up the other end in the next swim along, had a couple liners in the night on it, but nothing's happened. And yeah, that's sort of it for me. And when I was recast this morning, Rusty, who's opposite me, he was putting his bait boat out, and I couldn't work out what was going on because he was putting his bait boat out, and then the bait boat was halfway back, and then he had his rod in his hand and was winding in, and just heard on the radio later this morning he was telling someone else, actually when he dropped his bait from his boat as he was bringing it back, the rod went, but either didn't connect to it or lost it in the weed, but either way he didn't get that fish in. And listening to the radio, nobody's had anything last night, so fish are out there and showing. It's certainly a lot cooler today. It's quite cold on this side, to be honest. If I had some long trousers with me, I wouldn't be sitting here in my shorts, that's for sure. But we'll see what happens. I think what I'm going to do, we've got high pressure again today. It's not ideal fishing conditions. I'm going to, after this, I'm going to have some breakfast, and I'm going to have a wind in, have a walk around the lake, see what's occurring, and then I'm probably going to put zigs out for the day. And then tonight I'll fish the same 3 spots I think that I fished last night, and see what happens. So sadly no fish to show on the vlog yet. Hopefully somebody has something today, and I can update the vlog with a fish or 2. Yeah, so catch up with you later on. Well, welcome back. No fish, as you can see, but yeah, it's 5 o'clock now, so we're just all ordering a takeaway, and we're going to go over and sit with Tim and Lee, I think it is, yeah, Tim and Lee, and have something to eat before we come back and put the rods back out for the evening. I don't know, it's been a strange old day, quite warm it's turned out. I went down the end here, there's a swim at the end, it's only wide enough, I guess you could put 2 rods in there at a push, but I think you'd struggle to get a fish in. I went down there with 1 rod, and you can see a gravel patch, nice and clear, lowered my little pink pop-up on it, 5 foot it's 5 foot deep, but like I say, it's crystal clear with your Polaroids on, I could see the bait. Just put some broken up boilies over that as well. And I spent 3 hours down there. In that time, certainly in the first 2 hours, there was regularly 1 or 2 fish swimming by, but they were only like 14, 15 pounders, low doubles, and they were probably a foot under the surface. And then in the last hour, a couple of better fish passed, definitely a mid-30 common and a upper 20 I'd say common, and they were probably halfway in the water. And but yeah, nothing went down on the baits. Everybody has had zigs out of some form today, and no one's had a take on the zigs. Just don't really know what's going on with the fish. A guy walked around as well this afternoon. He said he fished last weekend, and nobody had anything out, so we're not the only ones struggling. But we've got tonight to go. I think we've got to be off by 11 o'clock tomorrow. That said, I will be away for 9, so we'll see what happens. It was daylight at 4 o'clock this morning, so that still gives me a good few hours of bite time to try and nick a fish. I'm just going to try tactically something just slightly different. Going to bring 1 rod literally off the tip. I've still got 3.5 foot of water just off the tip of the rod, and as I was getting some line bites last night, I'm going to try fishing even closer in than I was last night on 1 rod, and the other rod I'm going to put out onto a plateau where the fish were this morning, and just going to fish that. Quite a high pop-up to start with, and see what happens. If they was out there this morning, maybe they were there last night as well, who knows. But yeah, we're all sort of scratching our heads on trying to nick a bite now to at least get one fish for the Pallatrax social. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not for lack of everybody's trying, and there's lots of various different things being tried, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully I wrap this up tomorrow and there's been a fish or 2 on the bank in the night or early morning. So yeah, see you then. Well, good morning, and another bright sunny morning here. So what happened yesterday, we all went over into Tim and Lee's swim. Had a takeaway last night, local burger place, surprisingly good burgers. I wasn't expecting a lot, but really nice burger and piping hot, so that was good. We stayed over there till about, I think it's about 8 o'clock, then all went back to our swims and got our rods out on the spots. I had a change of plan on 1 rod. I mean, yesterday morning there was a lot of fish out on the surface. There's a plateau probably, I don't know, 50 to 60 yards from me. It's just beyond a really big weed bed. Then there's a plateau. I mean, there's still a lot of weed on the plateau, but nonetheless, the fish were up there, all on the surface yesterday. So I thought I'd fish a rod on there last night in the hope that they would come back and feed on that spot, if that's why they were there yesterday anyway. So that was a plan on that rod. The other two rods in the margins again, although the right hand rod that was just down in front of where the camera is now, I pulled back a bit, the one that was getting all the liners the night before. So yeah, just because the fact you're getting liners suggests you're too far out, so I came back a little bit. So I was probably only fishing a foot off the bank. What I did notice when I came back, I put the Polaroids on, and down on the spot where I'd been, there was a tench and a lot of roach, so possibly it was them hitting the line the night before, and not carp anyway. But nonetheless, that was my attack for the night, and yeah, quite a quiet night. There was a message from Tim to say that Lee had a 25-pound mirror. Don't know what time that was. That was about 2 o'clock, I think that was. No, it may have been earlier. May have been earlier than that, maybe 12 o'clock. But yeah, so at least that was a good sign going into the night. Somebody's had a fish at last. And for me, 2 o'clock, the rod on the plateau, 3 bleeps, the hanger lifted, and then dropped back to its position. I didn't hit it, I thought I'd leave it. Don't know what's going on there, but I was up at 4 o'clock this morning, wound that in, and yeah, there's quite a lot of weed on the hook, even though I'm fishing that one popped up. It's 3 inches off the bottom now, and I've moved the bead right up the leader so as it can ride up. And yeah, still had weed on the hook, so with that, I changed that rig over, put a new rig on, sharp hook. I've put that back out on the plateau. I've moved my right hand rod from the margin, put that back out on the plateau, or on the plateau, and my left hand rod I've moved, that's probably about 30 yards out now, where again I've seen fish this morning, and just hoping to nick one now. You know, I'm into the last, I don't know what it is now, yeah, 25 to 7. So I've got probably 2 more hours with the rods out. Most of the gear's packed down now. I've moved the barrow along to the last swim on this side of Rats, because from there I can actually get the barrow back round to the car with all the gear on it. The path's too narrow to get the barrow down with all the stuff on. So yeah, what can you say about this lake? I actually really like the lake. It is very weedy and challenging. It reminds me a bit of the original Darren Tip Lake, which I fished in the mid-80s. Very similar amounts of weed, although the Tip Lake didn't have all that blanket weed on the bottom once you've got past the, and again I still can't think, it might be Mill 4, don't quote me, whatever all that weed is. Once you'd cleared that out on Darren, you didn't have all the blanket weed on the bottom, which you seem to have everywhere here. But yeah, I do like the lake. Would I come back here again? The big killer for me is that noise from the road. I don't know if the mic picks it up, because it's got the baffle on it and it shouldn't pick up surrounding noise, so it probably doesn't. But again, by 2 o'clock this morning, Sunday morning, there's traffic going up and down the road. And yeah, for me that was just, probably kills it, and that probably will prevent me from coming back again. But never say never. I mean, what has been good, it's, you know, I, as you know, if you watch my vlogs, I'm generally fishing on my own. So it's nice to be on a lake with 7 other people. And yeah, everybody's nice lads, different levels of experience of angling, skills. But I think that's what the team Pallatrax are aiming for. Pom, who runs it all, you know, I think he's more on to educating newbies rather than the older people. but then people with experience are handy to the team to perhaps pass on some knowledge to others, which may or may not have happened this week. Certainly I know Lee's been giving out some advice to one of the other chaps here. So yeah, unless some fish happens in the next couple of hours, that's the end of the vlog. So thanks for watching. If you, as I always say, you know, if you like the vlog, subscribe. There's a little subscribe button somewhere, even further down there actually, over there somewhere, I think it is, when you're watching it. So yeah, subscribe and maybe watch some of my other vlogs. Hopefully be doing one on the river in the next few weeks. Just need a bit of rain. Now the river's open, I'll be up there doing a barbel vlog again. Anyway, enough of me waffling on, as I always say. Thanks for watching. See you again.